Hello and welcome to Space Shark Teaches. I'm Sean from Space Shark Studios, and I'm here to teach you visual scripting in Godot 3.1. Let's get started. In this lesson, we are going to finally tackle what I think you've all been waiting for, animating this little guy right here, your main character, the hero. So to start, we're going to be using another animation or another sprite provided in the description. It is a sprite sheet, which means it contains multiple individual images in a single image. And then the editor, Godot, will actually deal with cutting them up and using them appropriately. So I guess first let's go ahead and do our normal, import it. And along with importing, remember to do 2D pixel or else it'll be all blurry. Once we're done with that, we want to go into our player scene, and we're actually going to be switching out this sprite texture. We were using player, now we're going to be using hero sheet. And as you can see, it has the whole set of animations. You might be thinking, all right, that really doesn't help us. You know, now we have just a giant blob going around. Yep, that is why we're going to be going down into here and looking at animation. So as you can see, right now we have 4 frames for walking to the right and 4 frames for walking to the left. We have 2 rows and 4 columns. So the number of vertical frames we have is 2, and the number of horizontal or H frames we have is 4. And we are currently on frame 0. And as you can see, as you go through the frames, it goes through all the frames that we had available, which are 8. So there, we have finished step 1. Step 2 is we are going to be going back to scripting, because we're going to be using our movement scripts and our speed to figure out what frame we need to be on. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and shrink output and make our editing area a little bit bigger. We are going to be adding 4 variables. One is current frame, so we know which frame that we're on. That is going to be an int, and it is not going to be exported. Remember, you can click this up and down so that it goes from null to 0. We are going to have move right start frame. It is also going to be an int, and this one will be exportable so that we can switch it if we decide to update the sprite sheet. Just like that, we have move left start frame, which is also an int and can be exported. So you can see I just right click and go to edit member. And then finally, we have frames per animation. And this is a variable that we use to determine how many frames are in a single animation cycle. That will be an int. We're actually going to set this to 4 and set export to on. And also let's go ahead and right click move left and set that default value to 4 as well. Because if you remember, let's go back here to see. If we set it here, this is base 0, which means this is frame 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we actually want it to be, I have no clue what it's trying to fill in there. We want the move left to start down on frame 4. but we only want 4 frames per animation cycle. Go ahead and save that. And now we are going to make 2 new functions. As you know, I like making multiple functions because it's easier to read an individual function. We are going to make animate as well as update animation variables. Animate, we'll call this update first, and physics process we'll call animate after we have finished moving. First thing we're going to do is update our animation variables, namely current frame. That's the only one that is really malleable that we're going to be changing in this code. We want to take our current frame, we want to add, so we can drag this in or we can pull this down and type add. We want to add 1, and then we want to go ahead and say let's set that to our current frame. So let's think about how that works. We will start at 0, and then if we are going right, we will go to frame 1, 2, 3, 4, which is now going left, 5, 6, 7, 8, which doesn't exist. We're running into some issues here. We can't just increment this by 1. We can't just add 1 every time. We actually want to use something called remainder. So a remainder is seen by this A percent sign or modulo B. And what it says is after you have divided B out of A, I just want the number that is left. So for instance, in 25 divided by 6, that divides 4 times, and then you have a remainder of 1. For those of you who learned long division, it's the same principle here. Whatever you get after you've divided out the rest of it is left over here at 1. Let's go ahead and make another example. If we say 13 modulo 4, or that 4 times 3 equals 12. You need to add 1, so that's equal to 1, because 13 or 4 divides into 13 3 times with a remainder of 1. Okay, so what does that do for us? That means that if we call a remainder on this get current frame using get frames per animation, we will never go above 4. So we will start at frame 0, go to frame 1, 2, 3, and then when current frame plus 1 is equal to 4, it goes back to 0 because we have no remainder. And that's actually what we want here, because that means that we never run out of frames that we can see. So we'll go ahead and leave this, and so this says, you know, what is the current frame? Now we can move on to animate. We are done with remainders. Go ahead and watch that section as many times as you want. Look up modulo. It is actually spelled modulo or modulus. But now that we have in here this current frame updated, all we need to do is determine, are we going left, are we going right, or are we not moving? Thankfully, we have this fun little thing called movement velocity. And if we drag movement velocity in, we can drag this out to blank space and get X, which is our left-right movement. So if this X is greater than 0, then we are moving right. However, if our movement velocity is less than 0, then we're moving left. So we need to do something with that. Let's go ahead and disconnect that. So if we are moving right, what do we want to do? We want to take this sprite and update its frame. We want to use the move right start frame, and we want to add the current frame to that. Let's go ahead and say add, and once those are added, we want that to be our current frame for our sprite. We can do the same exact thing for left and current frame. Add these two together, and then that is going to be our frame for going left. Save that and see what happens. We're standing still and we are animating. We are animating left and right. It looks really fast. There's a little bit of awkwardness to it, but that is because we are not controlling for frame rate, which will be covered in our next lesson. So see you then. Thank you for watching Spaceshark Teaches. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel and remember to click the bell to always stay up to date. Please also join us on our Discord, linked in the comments, and check out our other videos if you ever want to see what else we've been up to. Thanks again for watching, and we can't wait to see what you make.